Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our October monthly webinar on college, career, and military readiness in your school district 2.0. This is a 2.0 version because one of the most requested topics from our webinar attendees has been CCMR and supporting your district efforts around the college, career, and military indicators that are a component of our A through F accountability system. So today we're going to spotlight some district strategies on making CCMR gains. We have Aldine ISD joining us. They have some fantastic information to share. We'll talk a little bit about creating data-driven goals and also working with your leadership team to create systems that support and make an impact on CCMR in your district. We did this webinar sort of 1.0 version last school year, and it was highly attended. And today we have over 550 folks that have registered. We see lots of people and familiar names and faces that are joining us live. So thank you so much for spending your next hour with us this morning. We have some really great information that we will share. So if you're new to Texas OnCourse, and some of you may be, our mission is that with Texas OnCourse, all Texas students, no matter where they come from or where they're headed, have a plan for success after high school. It's a very sort of simple message, but everything we create and everything we do with that mission in mind. And we are a state-funded initiative here in Texas, and we are currently housed at the Higher Education Coordinating Board. We also work really closely with partners as part of the tri-agency initiative that includes the Texas Workforce Commission as well as the Texas Education Agency. So we'll refer to their resources in the webinar this morning. So we also record and we post all of our webinars on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, I would recommend doing so this morning. There's the link right there, and you can search by content, topic. You can also receive notifications. And when we send you our email follow-up, that will be a link to our YouTube channel with this direct webinar, CCMR in your district 2.0. So just go ahead and like us if you can take a quick second, and it helps us keep track of our folks that come to our webinars and watch them later. So a couple of things on our webinars. As I mentioned, all of our webinars are recorded. This recording is sent out to everyone that has registered. We understand that people have schedule conflicts. So if you register and you can't attend live, it's no problem. We do send that recording. You all can share that with your colleagues. And we usually take a couple of business days to put some resources together, and the recording will be sent out to you. And also our upcoming webinars and our recordings, our previous recordings are posted on our webpage. So that's just texasoncourse.org. And we have some folks that are going to drop the links in the chat as we go through these. But if you're on our homepage, you're just going to go under the educators tab and you can see webinars, and the monthly webinar series is posted there. And we're going to update that page here very soon to include the rest of this year's webinars and topics. So hopefully that, thank you, Trisha, for dropping that link in the chat. So here's our agenda for this morning. We want to be really respectful of your time because we know everyone is really, really busy. So we're just going to do a quick introduction and welcome to the folks that are joining us this morning. Because we're talking about CCMR and accountability, previously we've had guest speakers from TEA and their performance reporting division join us. This morning, I'm going to just kind of provide a quick overview, a little bit of a review of what's been happening with A through F, what happened in 2021, and then also sort of what's on the horizon now that we're getting into 2022 here, which is around the corner. And then I'll turn it over to Samantha Gonzalez, who's our Assistant Director of Content and Resources. We have some really great resources within the Academy that we want to spotlight. So for your team that's working on CCMR, we definitely want to suggest some things, some modules and some learning you can do within the Academy. And then our district perspective in this webinar around CCMR gains and highlights is from Aldine ISD. They have some really, really great information. They've been a great partner to work with us and share their information. So we have Tawana Collier, Director of Guidance, Counseling, and Support Services, and Dr. Susan Polizzo, Executive Director of Advanced Academics and Digital Learning. They have some really cool things that they are doing in Aldine. We always like to highlight what district work is happening. So we definitely want to give them some time in this webinar to share some great ideas that you all can learn from. My name's Laura Guggen, and I'm Director of Course of Program Implementation at Texas OnCourse, and I have a college readiness background. And my team works directly with the school districts that are using our resources. We are looking to provide data-driven outcomes and work with to support the districts that are using everything that we've created at OnCourse and within the coordinating board. Samantha?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Samantha Gonzalez, the Assistant Director of Content and Resources here at Texas OnCourse, and I oversee a team of subject matter experts, and together we support the content development and maintenance of Texas OnCourse resources.
And good morning, I'm Tawana Collier, Director of Guidance, Counseling, and Support Services here in Aldine ISD. And I'm excited to be here this morning to share some of our best practices.
Thank you, Tawana.
Good morning, all. The Executive Director for Advanced Academics in Aldine ISD. I do the K-12 GT and Advanced Academics program in our district, and I'm excited to share the wonderful things that we're doing.
Wonderful. Thank your team from Aldine for putting this all together. It's great, very valuable information. So we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot to cover. And I just wanted to check in with our attendees to see if you could just take a minute and let us know what questions you might have about college, career, and military readiness, what we are going to talk about today, and we'll see if we end up covering some of those. They can be any questions, general, specific, anything you would like to know this morning or dig into. Allison, I see your question. If we have a sign-in sheet, we do not. We actually can see the folks that have joined live, and we can pull a report of that later. So I see more knowledge on the military aspect. So military readiness, we will talk about that. Absolutely. Special education students. Great. And you can feel free to share additional questions in here. What are school districts doing to increase CCMR accountability? We will definitely cover that today. CCMR in middle school and hours. Great. So we will talk about some of those, and we will also keep track of your questions. So if there's something that you all are looking for that we don't answer in this webinar, we can go find it and follow up with you. So feel free to continue adding those. I'm going to go ahead and jump into some A through F resources that I find very valuable. I will say these are all from the Performance Reporting Division, and the resources there that I'm going to highlight here. We're going to drop a link in the chat where you can find all of these things and also many, many more on the resources that are tied to A through F when you have specific questions, because as you know, it's a pretty complicated system and we've had a lot of modifications due to the pandemic. So all of the things that we're talking about today is kind of a high level summary from the reporting performance reporting division. And with that being said, of course, TEA folks in this division and their experts are the experts on these topics, but we definitely wanted to share some things that would be valuable for you. So the first one is we started to talk, of course, about 2022 accountability ratings. And so on this link and on this page that is there, accountability ratings for 2022 will now include the TSIA2, and those test scores will be considered for CCMR credit. So there's a really fantastic TSIA2 graphic. And the only reason we're not going to do a deeper dive into this right now is because this is the topic for our next monthly webinar in November. So we have a whole assessment, and the guest speakers are going to be from the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board that oversee that TSIA2. So you can access the TSI information and questions from this link, as well as many other links. But I just want to give you a heads up that we're going to really dive into TSI2 and the scores and the changes in our November. So at the end, we'll have a link for that webinar as well. The next resource here on the second bullet is, even though we did not have A through F ratings in 2021 for really, really specific kinds of questions, TEA and stakeholders have, of course, created the 2021 Accountability Manual. That is broken up into chapters on TEA's website. You can search by topic. All of the ins and outs of the whole entire system can be found in the manual. And we just have to refer to it because that is where all of the answers can be found. So that's here and available on this page as well. The next resource we wanted to highlight is assessment timelines and management. Some of you might be testing coordinators. Some of you may be directors of CCMR, and all of the assessment information you're going to want to know if you're creating any kind of calendar, you're overseeing testing, or you might be a test proctor. So anything regarding STAR assessments, end of course, SAT and ACT, alternative assessments, you're going to want to look at that link to check out the assessment timelines and also see any changes. And then the last one I wanted to highlight is the accountability reset timeline. I actually have a slide on this because I think it's really relevant for what's going to happen this year, since we are about to be in 2022, and what the accountability system is going to do and when you know it's going to be updated. So I have a slide on that timeline, and we will show you that in just a few minutes. So here's some high-level changes that were made to 2021's A through F accountability. This is really just a quick review because many of you have probably looked at this data already, just as we got through the last couple of years of the pandemic. So as many of you know, all districts and campuses were labeled not rated, declared a state of disaster for 2021. So there were no ratings and no labels technically. So no ratings, which also includes there were no domain scaled scores. And I'll elaborate on this a little bit in the next slide, but no overall scaled scores will be assigned. So as you know, 2020 was a no testing year, right? We were just getting into the pandemic and many of us were not in school in person. So it makes it difficult for the system to calculate growth. So we'll talk a little bit about what was added into the system for 2021. So that third bullet, school progress part A, and also closing the gaps, academic growth, as I mentioned regarding assessments, those domains will not be calculated. And then the last one, of course, I think many of you know this, is that the CTE coherent sequence of courses and military enlistment data will be excluded from CCMR calculations within the A through F accountability system. So this chart is a graphic from TEA, and there's a really handy one-page handout on what's included in 2021, since it seems like we were just in this particular school year. So these boxes have which data will be included for 2021 accountability reporting. So the red box here, the data elements that were not available for 2021, and I just want to highlight a couple of things. Student achievement, scaled or domain scores were not included. School progress academic growth data, school progress relative performance scaled scores, and closing the gaps component scaled scores. So anything overall that was scaled. So essentially what that means is that the scaling tool was taken out of the A through F system. And then as well, that last box, those distinction designations that were also part of the A through F system were not available for 2021. So the blue box, what was available for 2021 was raw data. So student achievement raw star scores. As you know, college, career, and military readiness, CCMR, and graduation rates, component scores, raw school progress scores, and CCMR scores, as well as district and campus economically disadvantaged percentages. Also available for 2021 was some information regarding closing the gaps outcomes for student groups in relation to meeting targets and raw scores, and campus comparison groups was available for 2021. And if you would like a deeper dive into the differences in the scores and things like that, I would definitely recommend you look at some of there's a really great Q&A on accountability for 2021. If that's data you're still looking at, or you want to review it and you want to kind of comb through what the scores mean. So switching gears a little, I think it's important to still address college, career, and military outcomes bonuses. Those are part of our system, and there were funds distributed last year and will continue to be distributed. So we did distribute outcome bonuses regardless of schools having ratings, A through F ratings. So just a quick review here, those outcomes bonuses are part of House Bill 3, which supports the state's mission to prepare every child for success and aligns with 60 by 30 Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board goals. And these were, of course, created to incentivize and reward innovation and achievement, which I think we'll be able to see some examples of here from our district perspective. And the funds were also distributed annually to reward those accomplishments of graduates that are above a certain thresholds. So those thresholds and district funding, again, this is an image pulled from an outcomes bonus resource from TEA. And college ready definitions are there, and many of you are really familiar with these, but quite often we do get asked about district funding. So I wanted to put that graph there. But that college, career, and military readiness bonus structure is listed here. And this next slide is, I think, a really handy slide in terms of understanding the difference when we talk about CCMR. So CCMR and accountability is in those green boxes on the left. So CCMR and accountability, those definitions are there in those green boxes. And then you'll see the CCMR within the outcomes bonuses, that criteria is definitely more rigorous. So this is just a handy infographic that I have kept referring to. You'll see here, meeting TSI criteria and enrolling at a post-secondary institution after high school or earning an associate's. And then that career ready box, CCMR and outcomes bonuses, meeting TSI criteria and earning an IBC or level 1 or 2 certificate. And then, of course, military readiness is enlisting in the U.S. Armed Forces, but across the board, military readiness is temporarily suspended. However, still reported. Just want to make that clarification. So I really liked this slide and this infographic from TEA, what's next for accountability, because I feel like we spent so much time thinking about like being on pause because of the pandemic, and things are starting to go back to normal. So you'll see here when we began, of course, in 2016-17, the A through F system was developed. And a couple of things that I just want to point out, of course, that many of you know in schools, due to COVID-19 here in 2019, 2020, we canceled STAR and all districts and campuses were labeled not rated. In 2020-21, STAR was administered and districts and campuses were also not related. However, lots of accountability data, excluding the ratings, was released publicly. And then the agency and stakeholder groups working on the accountability reset development. So what's next for accountability is over there on the right. This year, districts and campuses, we will be back to receive A through F ratings. The agency will reset development and release a framework in May of 2022, excuse me, and we'll release what that will look like for the 2023 school year. It sounds really futuristic, but we're right around the corner. And then again in 22-23, campuses and districts will be evaluated under the updated system. So I realize that's a lot of information, kind of a high level summary. Trisha Euler just added that accountability reset timeline there for you, as well as that reporting one pager. And so, like I said, that's an overview, but we want to talk about district practices. But first, I'm going to turn it over to Samantha to talk a little bit about our OnCourse resources.
Thanks, Laura. That was really great information. So we're going to go ahead and hop into the resource spotlight. And today we're going to spotlight a module from the Academy. So for those on the webinar new to Texas OnCourse, the Academy is our online professional learning resource for college and career advising. It's free for all Texas educators and will help you prepare any student for any post-secondary option. To get to the Academy through our website, all you need to do is click on the tools drop-down menu and select Texas OnCourse Academy. And then from that page, click educator login to create your free account. And today's module that we'll be spotlighting is the advising all students to be college ready module. So this module truly explains what it means to be college ready. It takes a deep dive to describe the impact of meeting and not meeting college readiness in student-friendly terms. And it also helps you explain ways to demonstrate college readiness in K-12 and at the post-secondary level. Additionally, you'll have an opportunity to practice assessing student needs through an advising scenario within the module in order to provide appropriate guidance on college, career, and military readiness. The Advising All Students to be College Ready module does a really great job at explaining the difference between how institutions of higher education defines college readiness and how K-12 defines it. The module provides guidance for supporting students to be college ready at both the K-12 and post-secondary level. For instance, if a high school student meets the college readiness indicators, what does that mean at the post-secondary level? And this module gives you the information to advise students towards their next steps. We've developed this handout to also help explain the college readiness indicator as you go through the module. And we've dropped a link to this graphic in the chat. This module also takes a deep dive into advising with equity in mind. It provides information about what implicit bias, equality, and equity looks like in education. It dedicates a whole unit to advising with equity in mind. And the module shares considerations and guidance for school counselors and advisors in how to leverage your campus to implement equitable advising practices. To locate the module within the Academy dashboard, you would click on the Post-Secondary Pathways Foundational Knowledge course, which is selected here. And then you would click View Module to get started on the module. And we'll also share a direct link to the module itself in the chat. And I'll pass it over to our friends at Aldine.
Good morning again, everyone. I'm Susan Polizzo. I am the Executive Director for Advanced Academics in Aldine. So we're pleased to be here today because I do love talking about Aldine and the work that we do. So first of all, I just want to tell you who we are in case you're not familiar with Aldine ISD. We are the 9th largest district in Texas. We cover 111 square miles in North Harris County in Houston. So we currently have a little bit more than 61,000 students in our district, spread over 83 campuses. But when we talk about specifically for the purposes of this discussion, we're really focused in on our 9 high schools, our 5 comprehensive, and then we do have 4 schools of choice. We have a CTE high school, 2 P-TECH high schools, and an early college high school. We are a diverse district. We are predominantly Hispanic at 72% and 22% Black. And then after that, our demographics start to diminish with 2.4 white, 0.7 2 or more races, and of course 2% Asian. We are predominantly at-risk and eco-dis, so we have to be creative and innovative to make sure that all of our students receive the services that they need and have choices and opportunities to pursue their college or after graduation goals. And in Aldine, our superintendent, Dr. Goffney, when she says all means all in Aldine. So we make sure that we are providing those choices and opportunities for every single student.
So as Dr. Polizzo mentioned, in our district, when our superintendent says all means all, she truly means that. And so when she came to our district, we revamped our vision and our mission for our district. And so our mission is that Aldine ISD will provide a rigorous and enriching educational experience that prepares every student for success in college, career, and life. And so we were very intentional about coming up with this mission, and I actually served on that committee. And so I highlight that because one of the things that we quickly did was establish a post-secondary pathways project. And so we were able to do this project with the help of a $75,000 planning grant that was awarded to us by the Houston Endowment. And so really the purpose of that grant was for us to really take a deep look at some of our current post-secondary processes, to really look at, what we wanted our goals to be around post-secondary readiness for our students and CCMR outcomes. And so with that project, we worked with an independent consultant by the name of Donald Commence, and he now works with a group called Contigo Ed. And so Donald was able to put together a steering committee so that we could look at our processes and really take a deep look at what we were going to do in our district to kind of move the needle in terms of CCMR outcomes for our district. And so with that, we looked at a few key priorities that were identified, and that's on the next slide, for this post-secondary pathways project. There was a steering committee put together for that project. I was on that committee. Susan came to the committee a little bit later on in the work, and it was led by our chief of schools, Dr. Katie Rohde, who was very instrumental in making sure that we really looked at this work and really looked at some of these priorities that Donald Commence and Contigo Ed helped us to identify. And so I want to take a little bit of time to talk about these key priorities that we looked at. There were many more. There were actually a list of 15 priorities on that list, but I pulled out these key priorities because I think that it really goes with what we're talking about today in terms of CCMR outcomes. These are priorities that had a huge effect on our outcomes. So the number one thing was a real-time data and deep dive analysis. So we looked at a lot of our data in the district, and a lot of times it was not pretty. And we also saw that there was a really big need to centralize our data here in Aldine, because what we were doing was when we needed something, we were pulling from different sources. If we needed CTE information, we were calling the CTE department. If we needed information about SAT scores and that sort of thing, we would call Susan's department, or we would call, they would call the counseling department. And so we noticed that there was a need to centralize our data. That was the big thing. We also looked at our external partnerships, and many of the counselors on the call will know what I'm talking about when we say that we have people coming in and out of our schools all the time. Lots of external partners, and that could be things like talent search. In our district, we partner with a group called One Goal to help our students with college and career. We have partners with Advise Texas. They are the group that we use for our college advising group. So we took a look at the external partners that we had coming in and out of our campuses, and then we really tried to create an intentional coordination with those groups by bringing them in. We brought them in the fall of 2019, and that was the first time that they actually had a chance to meet each other. And it was an eye-opening experience, because it allowed us to see, one, well, we have different people coming in. What is it that they actually do? And are we maximizing, all that these programs have to offer? Or are we allowing them to come in, do their work, collect their data, and then not basically put that information together with the goals that we want to accomplish on our campuses? We also looked at academic programs. Donald helped us kind of conduct a deeper dive into the academic program that we have surrounding SAT, ACT, TSI, and our AP and our dual credit. And so that dual credit piece is what we're gonna focus on in a little bit. We're gonna tell you guys about an initiative that we've been working on since we started this post-secondary pathways project. And then lastly, we also focus on our current staffing structure and really look at how we can align our staffing in our district to meet the long-term needs of our district. And so we were excited to be able to hire a director of post-secondary outcomes, Dr. Autumn Boyd, who is essentially going to help us continue to lead our CCMR efforts in our district, so that we are putting all of these things together, and they're not, all over the district, and that we're really putting some leadership to this work, so to speak, so that we're centralizing, what we're doing, and making sure that there's someone that's at the helm of this work. So we want to talk a little bit about, and Susan's going to talk a little bit about the College for All initiative. I mentioned to you guys that we kind of pulled out from this work, from these priorities, the fact that we needed to increase our numbers in terms of our students acquiring dual credit courses. So I'm going to let Susan chime in on that next slide.
So in the spring of 2019, which will go down, of course, as when we all started to learn the word pandemic, in the spring of 2019, we began our College for All initiative. And with this, it's a simple in concept, but sometimes the simplest things can come with a little bump and bruise. So what we've done with College for All is we have pledged to offer every high school student the opportunity to earn a minimum of 6 hours of college credit by the time they graduate from Aldine ISD. And we do that through choices and opportunities that we have at every high school. So we look at a combination with our College for All of academic lanes or CTE lanes, or a combination of both, to make sure that they have that opportunity and choice of those 6 college hours. So with the next slide, we talk about what that really means, how we're going to do this, and what does it look like when we achieve our goal. So we can't do this alone. So we definitely need to make sure that we have strong external partners and collaborate with them on a regular basis. And our primary partners for our College for All initiative are Lone Star College, that's our local community college, and the University of Texas with their on-ramps program, and our College Board. And through the Lone Star dual credit pathways, that also works with our CTE and workforce certifications. Tawana and I meet weekly with a collaborative group made up of Aldine ISD directors, program directors, et cetera, as well as Lone Star representatives. That weekly meeting, we talk about everything dual credit, from qualifications, TSI, what courses are available, who can teach what courses will we offer at what campus. So it's how are we going to recruiting events, application workshops, and everything in between. So that Lone Star partnership and that weekly collaborative has really been one of the linchpins to moving our College for All initiative forward. And then as we move into next year, we will know that we've been successful when every student can identify a personal plan to achieve their minimum of 6 college hours. Again, whether that is in an academic lane or in a CTE lane, we want them to just really start thinking about what that looks like as they progress through high school into graduation. Okay, next slide, please. So under that College for All initiative, we have, like I said, increased our pathways and course offerings, which we'll look at in a few minutes. But that is really the big part of what we're doing, is making sure that our students have those choices and opportunities, and we have a variety of courses that we're offering. Now we know that they can't really get there into some of those dual credit courses unless they have the TSI and they're ready met. So we began the summer of 19, and we had a couple of TSI boot camps, but last year, this past summer, we expanded them to everything. Every high school had a TSI boot camp in which students came and they did a 2-week boot camp and then took their TSI, so that we could, one, get them college ready, meet their accountability indicators, but more importantly, set them up for success under the College for All umbrella. So we're able to get more students into those Lone Star dual credit courses. Now, one of the big hurdles that we have been talking about, and if you're anything like us, this conversation has been going on for years, is finding credentialed teachers to teach those dual credit courses. And Aldine, we would prefer to have an Aldine ISD teacher teaching the dual credit course. However, Lone Star is wonderful. Lone Star College, if we tell them that we need an instructor, they will find a Lone Star instructor for us. But that does come with additional challenges, as I'm sure many of you are aware, that we have to follow the Lone Star College schedule. And of course, we would prefer to follow our own schedule with our own teachers. So one of the conversations that we have been having is recruitment, retention, and stipends around teacher credentialing. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second as well. But then also, we want to make sure that everybody knows what College for All means, and all means all. So we have embarked upon a marketing and awareness campaign. And of course, that marketing and awareness campaign, we partner with our FACE, Family and Community Engagement group. So we go to family and community engagement events. Tawana and I have been to several of their parent meetings where we talk about College for All and how to get their students there. We leverage social media quite a bit We're constantly tweeting out what next steps are for TSI, PSAT. We have recruitment virtual sessions. And then one of the keys to that is the very next day or night, rather, we have a live application session with Lone Star representatives. So we inform the parents of all of the options that they have through Dual Credit Lone Star. Then we tell them to come the very next night to our central office, and representatives will help them fill out their applications. Last time we had it in late July, early August, we were packed. We had standing room only. So as we move forward, we're hoping to leverage more locations so that we can have those live assisted application workshops. And also I purchased banners and flags and signs and post-its and all sorts of things for every high school campus to just get the word out College for All exists, and so that counselors can talk to their students about it.
So, and as Susan mentioned, we're doing all this in the middle of a pandemic. So it's interesting because like she mentioned, in the spring of 2019, right after we were awarded that grant in the fall, we put together some work groups that consisted of several departments, some of which you see here on this particular slide. And so that work group happened in February. And so everyone had their assignments. You know, our human resources group, they were going to go look at other districts that were offering stipends for dual credit teachers. We were looking at, you know, our counseling department. We were looking at scheduling and advanced academics. You know, Susan was looking at, you know, how can we expand certain courses? How can we look at what we're doing for TSI? So all of these departments really work together on this initiative. And so when COVID hit, you know, we were shut down for a short period of time because we had to get our district back up and running in a virtual setting. But we continued once we kind of got through that, and you all know that was a very hectic time in the spring of 2020. But once we got through all of that, we were able to continue our meetings with our consultant and really kind of plan out some things that we were going to do for our College for All initiative. And as many of you know, around the state, enrollment, some dual credit enrollments dropped, college enrollments dropped in the fall of 2020, but it didn't deter us. So all of these groups really work together, and we're continuing to work together. The newest person to our party is our post-secondary outcomes executive director. And so she is also taking on a lot of this work within her department. And it was one of the key priorities, as I mentioned before, that came out of that work, was that we needed to be very intentional about what we're doing as it relates to CCMR. So all of these departments have to work together, you know, in your district, and it takes everyone understanding you know, what CCMR is all about, how it impacts the district, especially when it comes to accountability, funding, all of those things. So we all had to work together. And like Susan said, you know, we meet weekly with Lone Star, and with a lot of these people you see on this slide, they are in our weekly collaborative with Lone Star College as well. Next slide. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the key things that we were doing with this College for All. You saw on the slide that had the little buckets there that talked about, you know, how we kind of really kind of dug deep into the work to be able to increase our offerings at our campuses. So we were able to expand last school year our AP offerings. We were able to offer AP Computer Science. We you know, originally had not offered that course before. We were able to offer additional dual credit courses, and you'll see a slide towards the end. We also were able to increase our on-ramps offerings. And so a lot of people, including our partner Lone Star, got a little scared when we increased our on-ramps offerings. But what we like to explain to students, parents, is that all of these things, AP, dual credit, on-ramps, they can absolutely work together, and students can do all of those things. They don't have to, set one particular pathway towards, gaining college credit. And so we do have a lot of students, that tend to take multiple advanced courses. And so our counselors are trained to understand that and to not necessarily, try to impose their view on a student. We let students kind of guide us in helping them choose what's best for them. In terms of recruitment and awareness, we really did a lot on making sure that counselors understood the new options that we have available. We work with our student services department. They are key in putting all of our new courses into our system. We use our SIS is eSchool. So we make sure that we, get all of those new courses updated and that they understand that, as well as our middle school counselors as well, because they are helping our students with their career plans in our 8th grade college and career courses. CTE alignment, we work closely with them to make sure that our CTE pathways on our campuses are aligned as well, and then expanding those CTE and workforce options for students through Lone Star College as well. And one partner that we did not mention, we don't have on the slide, was a new partner, was Houston Community College. They are not in our district. They are considered outside of our district, but we do partner with them as well to offer some courses that are not available through Lone Star. Next slide. So TSI, as Susan mentioned, we're doing a lot. Her department is key in terms of making sure that we are identifying key standards that we're able to embed within some of our curriculum documents. Susan is actually a part of the teaching and learning department. So she is meeting constantly with our curriculum program directors to discuss with them information that she feels is key for TSI preparation for our students. And as she mentioned before, we offered a TSI boot camp this summer on our campuses when we during our regular summer school offerings. And so we had students to take advantage of that as well. And so with Lone Star in our district, Lone Star has several different campuses throughout the North Houston area. But in our district, we work with Lone Star North Harris and Lone Star Houston North. And so they also identified a cohort that we work with on our campuses to get additional students in that cohort and expose them to dual credit options as well. So the one thing that we are working on for the this school year and then the 22-23 school year is a summer bridge program with Lone Star, and also a prep course, an actual course for our 9th grade students. We are doing some TSI prep and some other prep for SAT and SAT with a company called Mastery Prep. But we are actually, Susan is working on creating some prep for those 9th grade students so that when they actually start taking the TSI test, they will, we'll move beyond just the quick summertime boot camps.
So I saw in the chat real quick, just to extend the TSI conversation regarding what resources did we use for the boot camps. Well, Tawana did say we contracted with an external partner, Mastery Prep. However, before that, I brought together a cohort of math and ELA teachers who used the new TSIA2 framework and content outlines, and they created a scope and sequence and sample lessons to use in the boot camps. And then we asked each high school campus to have an ELA teacher and a math teacher work those summer boot camps. So you can certainly contract with an external partner. like Mastery Prep, Test Masters, whomever, but you can also bring together internal individuals to write your own boot camp. So moving to teacher credentials, I'll go back one more thing. Thank you so much. I apologize. So like I mentioned a few minutes ago, teacher credentialing for our dual credit courses was a little bit of a hurdle for us. So what we've tried to do is really do that collaborative wraparound to try to find who is credentialed. So what we did first is we identified teacher credentials at our high schools regarding who could teach dual credit, who had a master's with their 18 hours in specific subjects. So HR was the key to that identification. Then for on-ramps and AP, they don't require an advanced degree. They require specific training. And Jennifer Mullins from OnRamps is in the chat. And OnRamps is a great organization. They're extremely responsive. If you have specific questions about the teacher credentialing and the summer training that they go through, you can reach out to them. For AP, we have pledged to send every AP teacher, new or veteran, to Rice University to their AP Institute last summer and this summer, because we're trying to build the instructional capacity of our teachers. And then the on-ramps training is very specific. It's 2 weeks for new on-ramps instructors and 3 days for returning. But that professional development in those institutes are invaluable to setting the teachers up for success. So then when we go around and we're recruiting and having strategic conversations with our high school principals, we ask specifically, who do you have who can teach what type of course? And if they want a dual credit course, do they have an instructor or do they need one from Lone Star? But one of the big things that's been circling, like I mentioned earlier, is the stipend for dual credit teachers. So we've been having that conversation, and this year, just about 2 weeks ago, we finally got it approved. So all of our dual credit and on-ramps teachers are going to receive a stipend this year and into the future, because they do extra work above and beyond. They do multiple grade books, they meet with multiple cohorts, they have to navigate two learning LMS, learning management systems. So we wanted to incentivize and reward them, but also use that as a recruiting tool to bring other qualified teachers into our district. And then as we move forward, we definitely want to create professional learning collaboratives among Aldine and Lone Star College instructors so that we can continue to grow the instructional and content capacity of our instructors, of our teachers. And then I touched on our marketing and awareness campaign earlier. It really is about constantly saying college for all, college for all. And we do that anytime we're in front of any high school group. Whether it is in a principal's meeting, whether it's in a counselor's meeting, we're constantly talking about college for all, what it means, what the choices and opportunities are. Tawana and I have both held multiple awareness meetings with parents, students, teachers, counselors on the different options that they have. And we enlisted our communications department to create that signage, those banners, and just get that message out to parents and district-wide. So that was very important.
So I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about a few highlights with you guys. As I mentioned when we were preparing for this presentation, I mentioned that this work has been so interesting because we feel like we are building the plane and flying it at the same time. And I know a lot of you guys feel like that sometimes when you are, doing new initiatives on your campuses or in your district. And so it's interesting because when we first talked about it, we were like, well, are we ready? Because we're still doing this work. We're in the middle. We're still with the Contigo Ed, the group that is helping us with our post-secondary pathways project. but I felt the need to actually be a panelist on this webinar because I wanted you guys to see that you can absolutely be in the work and you can step back and you can kind of take in some of the highlights of the things that you have accomplished within the work, because when you're going through the work, you feel like, okay, we're going through this, and you suddenly wake up one day and you find yourself where you've moved from talking about things that you want to do to actually making some of those things come true. And so just a few of the things that I want to highlight, like I said, dual credit enrollment in our district dropped on a few of our campuses, but we actually had overall it increased by 20%. And a lot of that enrollment had to do with one of our high schools, which is Blanson CTE High School. They actually have a Texas OnCourse. They have 2 Texas OnCourse fellows on that campus. And so they're doing phenomenal work there. It is one of our CTE high schools. So every student there is on a CTE pathway, and they actually have 3 academies. And within those 3 academies, they offer over 17 pathways for those students. So those students are coming out with various certifications. And so they increase their numbers of dual credit offerings, both academic and CTE offerings for their students. And so the way that they were able to do that, we have a dedicated dual credit counselor there. She's also the lead counselor there. And of course, as my counselors on the webinar will know, other duties as assigned as that counselor. But she was very intentional in terms of recruiting with students, talking to parents, making sure that parents understand the importance of dual credit, not just on the academic side, but on the side in terms of CTE courses for them. And so these are just some of the highlights that I just want to mention to you guys. Of course, we mentioned before hiring our executive director of post-secondary outcomes. And then the other thing that we did, Carver High School, which is one of our magnet schools, our schools of choice, we actually have opened a P-TECH on Carver High School's campus. So we have essentially a school within a school at Carver High School. So having that opportunity for students will also allow them to earn more dual credit as well. We, as I mentioned, we also have dedicated Advise Texas College advisors on our campuses. We hope to eventually build out advisors on our campuses that are not solely through Advise Texas, that we're able to still utilize Advise Texas, but also have our own. And then one thing that we are particularly proud of is that we do have 2 early colleges in Aldine that's dedicated to students graduating with an associate's degree. But one of our comprehensive high schools, Nimitz High School, last year they had 26 students to earn associate's degrees. And so we are looking to replicate that in some of our other comprehensive high schools. And so the dual credit counselor at that high school is very instrumental in working with our 9th grade campuses to get the word out to students early on about dual credit. And lastly, you'll see here the information about our on-ramps and how we started in 2019 with essentially 4 classes and only 109 students, and how we built that out to this year we have 590 students enrolled in on-ramps courses. And we attribute that growth to Dr. Pulizo, of course, in the Advanced Academics Department, but we also pay the fee for our on-ramp students. Interestingly enough, we don't pay the fee for our students for dual credit. We choose to use the money that we get back from Lone Star based on our numbers to pay for the books for our students. And many of you may realize last year with everything being virtual, that cost for books was extremely high last year because a lot of the instructors decided to use the online textbooks. And so those books are not reusable. And so we were really paying a lot of money for those students to be able to actually get the books and take their classes and do well in their classes. So those are just a few of the highlights. I realize we're running out of time, and I don't want to rush here, but these are just a few of the things that I wanted to highlight for our district, and that we're extremely proud of, and that we're still working on. So we're not done yet. And we just, are excited about what's to come.
Oh, perfect. Thank you all so much, Tawana and Susan. I appreciate it. I know we are at time. We're going to go ahead and just be slightly over for the folks that are still on. And we're going to do some questions, address questions for 5 minutes, and then we will close out just a little bit later than the hour. So I will also, we will send out, I think we have enough questions to actually create a Q&A doc that we can send out to you. I'm going to go ahead and address a couple of questions here and open it up, because I know there were a lot and we may not get to them all. But there were a few questions that I had tracked to answer live. So the first one was that the ASVAB does not count for military readiness. It is not an indicator. Military readiness is enlistment. So that's something you need to keep track of and track with your PEIMS data and report via PEIMS. There was also a question, and I'm looking in the Q&A box, for students to earn CCMR points. They just need to be enrolled in an OnRamps course. And I verified that with our OnRamps contact that just happened to be on here, who's a colleague of mine. So the student does not have to, it's not based on whether or not the student accepts or declines that college credit. They just have to be enrolled in the course. And also district partners have access to see the students who have accepted or declined credit through their district portal. So OnRamps teachers should also have access to that information when the accept and the decline windows, the window opens, which is open for 5 days. And so we can share that. And then let me go back to some of the additional questions that we have, or Tawana, if Susan, if you all saw some that you were not able to address yet, please take a minute and answer anything that you might have saw come through on the chat.
Okay. So I'm not sure if I put it on here. Someone asked about our stipend. So yeah, we actually took a look at surrounding school districts to see, not all of them offer stipends, but quite a few did. And so, Susan, do you remember? I think we settled on $600 per course.
Yes, we're given a stipend per course per semester, and it's $600.
Okay.
So that also is an incentive to recruit more students to have more sections.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And just to clarify, Jennifer just put in there with OnRamps that the student in OnRamps the way it works is the student has to either accept or deny, not accept the credit at the end of the course. So if the student doesn't accept or decline, doesn't matter. It's the accountability is just having earned the credit, regardless of whether the student accepts it or not.
Yes, thank you, Susan, and thank you, Jennifer, for adding that. I do want to go back up. I think you might have addressed this, but we had some questions, and there's several on TSI. Did y'all have resources that you use for your boot camps?
Yes, so we did. So this is what I did for this past year when every high school had it. So again, we brought in a team of teachers. I had 4 ELA teachers, and then I had 3 reading teachers and 1 writing teacher. And what they did is they looked at the scope of the TSIA2, the dimensions or domains or whatever they call them. And then they wrote specific activities around each one of those specific things. They did warm-ups, practice tests, etc. They wrote those. But then I went online and I purchased a TSI workbook for every student who was in the boot camp. And this past summer, it was a small number of students who were in that boot camp because of the nature of our summer school. Most of our students were really directed to summer school to recapture learning over the summer. So we did have a smaller group for the boot camp. Every campus had approximately 30 kiddos in their boot camp. So I bought a workbook for reading, writing, and math for every student on every campus. Now it was full disclosure, and this is how I disclosed it to the campuses in the district. It was not TSIA 2 specific, but it was TSIA. So I said, that's better than nothing. There's still a workbook that they can work through some of the concepts and learn some of the knowledge and skills. So I did that. This year, as we move forward, we will continue to work with that cohort to hone the district created activities. But Mastery Prep, the company that we contracted with, has a fully fleshed out TSIA boot camp with resources.
Okay.
So you can probably find alternative ones. And I saw somebody put in their Princeton review, and they are a little pricey, but they have prep stuff too. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much, Susan. This actually does bring us, Keelan Morgan was in the chat. Really happy you were here, Keelan, to share some resources and things like that. And if you have not registered yet for important updates on the TSIA 2, and we did not get to your question right now about the TSI or the system or resources, please go ahead. We will drop the registration link in the chat. It is in there already. And we will also send it out to you. And if we did not get to your question, I apologize. We're going to work on some Q&A before we close out. But so many thanks to Aldine ISD and to Susan and Tawana for sharing all these wonderful practices. We will probably bounce some questions, follow-up questions over to you via email so we can send them out to this group. Once again, register for TSIA 2 in November. And thank you all so much for staying on. I know we went a few minutes over, but thank you all and have a great rest of your afternoon.